If the Valor bid next time round with the phase 2 part isn't successful for this part of the country again, then what's the next step? Because that's pretty drastic if it's not.
Thank you for the question. So I would hope that we will see a number of bids from the East of England. How the MOD, because this is an MOD programme, it's not an Armed Forces Government Fund Trust programme, would choose to proceed if there were bids, because we don't know at the moment what round 2 is going to look like and what the process of that is going to be. So it may be that they would then look to make look for solicited bids for the East of England if there weren't any bids that were forthcoming in the East of England. Hopefully that answers the question.
Oh yeah, thank you. Question was, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but how are we measuring whether Valor is a success?
So, the ODA have a data team within the Valor HQ, so they are currently designing what the data collection for Valor will look like. So, with the data coming in, they will be the ones who are measuring success with regards to the access of the services and what it looks like. There are also the other standard procedures that are in place with regards to quarterly reporting, etc. But it is the ODA's programme, they're doing the data piece, so where they are collecting all of that data, then that's what they're going to hopefully be able to get out of it.
Oh, that was a great question, Chair.
May I ask 2 questions?
No,
just one?
just one.
This is a sign.
No question.
No question. Okay, just one question. Does the Valor decision-making panel, for purposes of transparency and to sort of bring everyone together to really make it feel like this is for the Armed Forces community, do they plan to perhaps share feedback of the successful applicants?
So the bids that have been successful so far, some information has come out about what those programmes are. They are still in the process of going through that, the offers, etc. So there will be much more information that comes out of what the round 1 bids look like.
Okay, so yes.
So yes, there will be information because those Valor centres will be open and they will be providing the information on the services that they provide.
I suppose the question for you guys, some of you got some experience in this, I'm sure, but there's plenty of experience in the room as well. So I think it's one of those challenges for the community more broadly. How do we reach and communicate support to younger veterans? Is it a challenge area, or is there something that we need to look at as a research piece in terms of attitudes to engagement with veterans that are slightly younger than, let's say, 40?
I can generally answer, not directly, because I'm not responsible for, branding of veteran services, but I can give you a little bit of an idea of some things that are happening, if that helps. So, but we know that the majority of veterans, for example, that come through to Op Courage are normally in the age bracket of between 50 and 60. We have seen a slight shift, so more this year, more coming through from the 40 upwards, but the 18 to 30 category is the lowest represented. What is interesting is that the branding that was completed for the op services by NHS England back when we were all kind of gone live, the branding wasn't necessarily towards the younger demographic. So I think that's a really good piece of, piece of feedback for us to take back to commissioners, and it's something that as local services we can have a think about, as regions, we can have a think about as leads to try and come up with some ideas of how to bring in the younger veterans, because it doesn't mean that they don't have mental health conditions, it just means that, we're branding to a different demographic. That being said, something that I hadn't mentioned earlier, which I actually think is really important for people to know about, is that NHS England have, at the end of last year, released an NHS Armed Forces training package. which is being rolled out in stages. So whilst that's not targeted to the armed forces community, it's targeted to the NHS to help the NHS start asking the question, have you ever served in the forces? Not asking, are you a veteran? Because we know that not everybody identifies with that, especially the younger demographic. So it's about NHS services at the point of entry, whether that's mental health, physical health, GP surgeries, primary care, whatever it is, asking the question, have you ever served in the UK Armed Forces? Or are you a member of the armed forces community? Logging that. And then within this training package, we're also teaching the NHS about some of the key things that they might want to be looking out for, some of the key parts of military life that may impact somebody coming through. We mention, or the training package mentions, Op Restore, Op Courage, and some of the key national military charities as well. So if we are starting to do this education piece with the NHS, we are hopefully going to be able to get the message out to every veteran, irrespective of age, about all of these services that do exist. So just for awareness, at the moment, the Armed Forces training package is being delivered nationally by regional trainers. I'm supporting in the East of England region with that as well. And it's going out to sort of secondary mental health care providers and acute trusts at the moment. But the next rollout is going to be to primary care as well. So we're then going to be able to reach the next step forward. So we're hoping, I say we, I'm not a part of it, but I've sort of made myself a part of it, to get everybody upskilled in the East of England region. Is we're hoping, obviously the goal at the end of it, is that whether or not you've got a background in veterans mental health care or veterans physical health care, every single NHS staff member is going to be aware of the key issues that affect the armed forces community and know how to get help. So, you know, NHS is one of the biggest workforces, isn't it? And everybody, whether it's even just going to a GP, every veteran of any age is going to have contact at some point with the NHS. So that's one of the big things that hopefully will bridge that gap.
The question I've got really is, for what I gather from this conference, it's been very much everyone working together and merging together. And as a small charity myself, is there opportunities of another...
Sorry, excuse me, can you stand up?
Sorry, yeah, I will do that, sorry. Yeah, as a small charity myself, I was wondering the possibility of having an umbrella foundation to kind of divvy out some of the funds, a larger fund, to smaller charities, and also the restrictions. I mean, sometimes it's veterans or military personnel only, whereas you mentioned earlier about working together with civilians, and the transition over from veterans is working with civilians and vice versa. So is there any opportunity for that to occur in the future?
That's quite a big question. That's quite a big, quite a big question to answer, actually.
I would say, so for the VPPP and Thrive Together programmes have been on that basis, but specifically for...
It's been just that, it's just been the umbrella companies,
Yeah.
even though shutting things out. Will that happen again?
So who knows? I think is the answer. We've obviously, with Valor coming in, there's different things that are part of that as services. With regards to what funding could be coming up in the future, as Anna spoke about earlier, we're currently looking towards to do our collaboration labs, I can't get those words right, for the next 3 years of our funding framework. And there will be opportunities for organisations like everybody in this room to feed into that as to what's needed. So, you know, maybe that's the place to take that question.
Yeah, so that to Anna then, really,
Yeah.
to military government.
The MOD money is for the armed forces community benefit, so any projects would have to support the armed forces community.
Yeah, it will, but there's also the transition from the military to civilian life as well, isn't there? So I think we've got to have some sort of mix in there somewhere. Supporting them to merge.
So they're still veterans.
They're still veterans, but it's merging into civilian life. As you can support that.
Okay, I had quite a discussion on our table. This is a question not just for panel, it's quite an introspective question. It's a question for everybody in the room. So we spoke about what's next. What's different this time? We've all been to conferences, we've all been to Armed Forces today, we've all been and heard lots and lots of things. So what do we do to take away in our service? What can we put forward, not just for today's armed forces vets, but also for tomorrow's?
Well, it's not necessarily my field, but I suppose, like, you know, been to conferences like this and the same questions asked every single time. Like, we've gathered together, it's, you know, it's really nice to see everyone. What's next? I mean, my personal view is possibly the best thing you can do is also happens to be the lowest cost one. Pick up the phone and have a chat with someone that you met today. Like, because a lot of the benefit from events like this is that you get the chance to meet people in your field. You get that chance to network. You get that. You get an opportunity to see where everyone else is operating in, what space they're operating in, what fields they're operating in. So nurture those relationships. Like, pick up the phone, have a chat, send an email. I think that's personally what I'm planning on doing, and I implore you all to do the same.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I mentioned before the digital platform. There's going to be a source of information and stuff on that which will help massively for everybody. That's why I said earlier on, that is a place where everyone, professional ones, can get together and put things in one place. That is, I think personally, gold dust going forward. It really is. There's going to be some teething problems, as there is with every sort of thing that's out there. However, we could get through that and move on. And I think actually, to be honest with you, there's going to be some great information on there that people can share personally.
I just wanted to ask, actually, if it's possible for future conferences, if we could invite beneficiaries to come along with us, so that they could have a voice here as well, particularly in regards to, you know, MD or Valor or something like that. You know, they want to have their voice heard about what kind of services or what they'd like to see across the region.
I think personally having beneficiaries is great. It's powerful. It gives impact. The field that I've been in before, and most of us are working on the ground zero, if you want, supporting veterans and their families face to face. It is massive in itself. So I think having a beneficiary here to explain their story going forward is a really powerful tool, massively powerful. Is there another conference, is the first question. Well, at the moment, it doesn't seem to be there is. This is possibly the last one as it sits at the moment. But hold that thought, because I'm sure there'll be things in the background for plan going forward. But I think it's a great idea. I really do, because I think it actually pushes the message out there, and it's a strong message.
Yeah.
Our question was regarding Sir Nick Pope's presentation, so hopefully you'll be able to pass that on to him. Within his presentation, one of his slides had a breakdown of all the charities that COBCO have got registered, and it said there were 16 non-UK charities. Just because working in a big hospital, we sometimes come across people that have served for other armed forces, not British ones. So I just wondered if that ties in with that, or if there's a resource there that we're not aware of. Obviously, you know, the focus of today is British Armed Forces, and we absolutely support and, you know, right behind that. But it doesn't sit well with us ethically and morally if we've got someone who's served for a different country's armed forces, and we don't know what we can support them with once they go home from hospital care.
So those overseas charities will be charities that support veterans overseas who've served in the UK.
Right, okay.
So British, the Foreign and Commonwealth League, that's of the Gurkhas,
Yeah,
you know,
gotcha.
all those sorts of things. But if you have somebody who comes to the hospital who's not served in the UK Armed Forces, there are still ways and means of reaching out to their own. So, for example, I had somebody who'd been in the South African Army. I was able to make contact with the South African Veterans Association and ask those questions. You're not always successful, but there are other routes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, can I add something to that as well? So, the Commonwealth was a good point. There are a lot of people from Commonwealth countries that obviously have served in the British military, but you would know that, and your question was about those that haven't served in the British military. Op Courage does support Afghan individuals who supported during times of British presence. So in support of British military operations, if an Afghan supported and has been brought to the UK under the ARAP scheme, the NHS or Op Courage are commissioned to provide mental health care and treatment.
So it's quite nuanced depending on
It's
where
very
this
nuanced.
particular person went
Yeah.
to Ukraine and fought for the Ukrainian army, was injured,
We're not
come
covered
back
for
here.
that. No. So what I just didn't want you to leave is, just in case you met any
Someone that comes from a
individuals
different-
from Afghan who have from Afghanistan who have come to the UK under the ARAP scheme, you are more than welcome to refer them to Mock Courage. But the ARAP scheme is now closed, and people are still coming. So unfortunately, we aren't commissioned to continue to provide support for Afghan nationals who have come to the UK following the cessation of the ARAP programme. So yeah, it is very nuanced, it is very difficult, but if in doubt, pick up the phone and give us a ring, is what I'd say to that.
We're down to our last question. What are the expected outcomes of the LGR changes, and what are the outcomes and who benefits from it?
Well, so, I mean, to express my hesitation, we're currently in the middle of the pre-election period, so there is a limit to what I can say in terms of sort of like exact policy outcomes and views and things like that. I think the official government line would be that they want a system that works well and effectively. Not saying the current system doesn't work well and effectively, but that's what their outcome would be. Similar as what we have now, a system that works well, works effectively, with, I think, in their mind, they'd like fewer points of contact. I think that's something that they're potentially looking for, but I can't speak on their behalf. Yeah, there is a limit to what I can say on that, I think. I'm terribly sorry. Chat to me after the election. I'd be more than happy to talk.
True politician.
So our question is for the projects that were discussed earlier. Transportation, there was a pilot study. So the question is, when will this be extended to West Norfolk or the other areas? And will there be a report back on the test that's already been done?
So on the transport piece, that's something I've inherited in this role. There is tests and there's pilot schemes out there for both Norfolk and Hertfordshire, and they are pretty good the way they look at the moment, models-wise. It's then working out how someone will manage that going forward, and I'm happy to take this offline and have a meeting with whoever wants to talk about transportation, setting up a steering group and seeing what's out there and how we can support. Now, this is for gaps in transport. So this isn't out there for, I fancy going to, I don't know, where it may be and some phones up. It's not for that, it's for gaps. So if you've already got transport links, it's not for that. It's for something that isn't there. So for argument's sake, the NNUH hospital, they have a team there that transport patients out of the discharge area, but only work certain hours and not weekends. And we all know that certain people don't like getting on public transport. And you put PTSD in there and other sort of issues and problems. Some people just don't want to be sharing transport with someone else. And COVID doesn't help that. I thought we'd bring that in somewhere. That hasn't helped that either. So there is not a window of opportunity to get people home, armed forces community. So veterans, carers, families who don't drive, who haven't got that link. I don't want them sitting there for 3 or 4 hours in hospital waiting for some sort of support going back. So that's my thought. I've had a conversation with a couple of people, but it's more than that. There's people that need to get to hostels that are on the streets. There's people that need to get to doctor's appointments that don't have that link or transportation. It's just open at the moment to some sort of discussion, but I'm happy for anybody. You've all got my email address because I've messaged you for about 4 or 5 times in the last month or two. By all means, send me an email and we can take that up from there.
We have 4 questions, but it just proves that 5 minds think alike, so all ours have gone. But I'd just like to add a little bit to the one about the younger veterans. So my name's Andy, I work for Break Even, I support the armed forces with gambling harm addiction. I served 23 years, veteran, 15 years of that I suffered with gambling harm. So when we look at finding the younger veterans, I think we're very reactive and less proactive. So maybe that calibration together work with the armed forces, especially when we look at their programmes when they're leaving. All the great charities and great works we are there are shared in the education centre, different platforms, welfare, so they've already left equipped with them, so they're already on the journey where they potentially know they are. Because we're talking about an app coming out, probably won't come. Not long ago in the government we're reading about a veterans ID card that was going to come so we can recognise everyone for that support. But I honestly believe that actually if we go early, for that support's available into the system, so when they're going for that transition, that support's there as well. And that also goes for MCTC, because I serve there due to my gambling addiction support. For when they're going through D Company, get into MCTC to share that awareness, So if they're going for that process, they already know what's there when they need it down the line. Because as a fellow veteran, I only asked for help myself at the very last minute when it was too late when I was going into MCTC. And lastly, if you don't mind, I think the lady's question about potential was the feedback about today. Speaking to someone earlier, great event today and it's fantastic. But sometimes we're already talking about things that we spoke about 12, 13 years ago. So we said there's going to be a DigiLog. Will there be a QR code for us to put questions, to discuss lessons learned, lessons identified, share best practices, and there will be a central action log or action plan we can all work together to the end lived experience of the veterans or future veterans that want here today. Probably a lot to absorb, but I'm very passionate about supporting everyone in this room and the great work they're doing. Thank you.
What we'll say quickly, yeah. What we'll say quickly is I have got a feedback form with a QR code on it, which will take you to a short survey, which is on the Veterans site, and you can complete that. They're in my bag, so they're not very good in there. However, I can send that QR code out to everybody. I've got an email for, so it's on there. They can get onto the site, and they can answer those. There's about 6 or 7 questions. So that information would be gold, again, gold for us for knowing what's good, bad, whatever going on.
Thank you.
Hi, right, so our question is it's local authority based, but for the Covenant Fund Trust. Are there any considerations for the Covenant Fund Trust to open or think about a programme of funding local authorities again to provide dedicated officers to look after local authority Covenant work, especially with the extension of the new duty?
I don't have the answer to that question, but I can take it back and get it answered for you.
And with the active collapse piece, can everyone there start pushing for that as well?
Yeah.
Talk about this because I'm funded by 7 authorities on a shoestring, one guy, big county, so we can do is to get more energy there. Thank you.
Very briefly, thank you to everybody for everything here today. I've got a general question. But first of all, in acknowledgement of all the great work and everything that's gone on here, I know a colleague here recently said, that I acknowledge all the fantastic and amazing work that goes on, and it's really valuable. I really understand that. But the question we have is to external organisations looking into the veteran community. Have we got the balance right externally in supporting those in need and promoting the benefits of service leaders and reservists within your organisation? So that's understanding like the Career Transition Partnership. Are we supporting that as well to make sure that those that don't need the services of these great organisations are actually being supported by us as recognising them as part of the veterans community? So that's the question, have we got the balance right so that external people looking in don't see us as poor souls, actually see us as valuable people, irrespective of those issues that some may have?
I think a great example of what's being done about that is the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme, because that isn't looking at, oh, poor wounded veteran, that's looking at, are you aware of the fantastic skills that the armed forces community can bring your organisation? And it's, in my example, again, I'm not speaking for them, but it's got a very positive lens on it. We're all looking at what the deficits are for veterans, for their needs, where they need help and support. Whereas I think the Employer Recognition Scheme is looking at, hey everybody, this is why you need veterans and reservists in your organisation. And I think healthcare trusts as well are really leading in, because we have the Veterans Covenant Healthcare Alliance and Step Into Health programmes and some fantastic military employment charities as well. I think healthcare's leading in terms of we have some fantastic policies across different trusts, and I've seen many different examples of best practice where different trusts have specific policies for reservists. So, and I think that's growing legs as well. And because best practice examples are being shared and certain trusts are doing it, everyone else now can see that they're behind and they're stepping up. And part of the Employer Recognition Scheme as well is, to get your gold standard is for you as an organisation to also encourage other organisations to recognise the benefit of the armed forces community as well. So yeah, I think it's moving.
I just like to make sure that we stay. I mean, I'm proud to say that we've got a gold standard for our organisation as well. And yeah, I just want us to make sure that we keep that balance. There are routes that I've discussed with some people today. So I basically deal with economic development within the council, and therefore I take that opportunity to sell those opportunities out to organisations, and we all need to be doing that. And I just want to make sure that we do keep that balance. We're absolutely vital of the work that's done here, and that we all acknowledge and all take part in, but actually that we keep the balance, that there's a good story to be told as well. But thank you.
And I would say that that is recognised in the new veteran strategy with the Celebrate strand. I think, you know, it's something that has been really recognised, that is coming straight out of government as well, which is heartening to see.
We've got a lot to put into society to deliver whatever government is in. Their aims, we can deliver that as civic service people. I'm absolutely confident of that. And I just want to give us all that opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to say one thing, sorry we're going to be wrapping up in a minute. I think a lot of the onus is actually on the military camps themselves. Resettlement briefs I don't think are fit for purpose, and I know that. I left 4 years ago. I don't think those resettlement briefs that are held by the units, wherever they are good enough for those poor people, not poor people, those people that are leaving become veterans or to do that. I feel that sometimes it's not, well, I'm talking about 4 years ago now, it's probably changed considerably. Certainly, there was some... Okay, there hasn't. So I will say is that when I left, it was supposed to be compulsory, but no one did the checks. People leave, and it's something else. You only need a service when you need a service. So there's people leaving going, right, now what to do? Never used to pay water rates. I never used to do this. Now I've got to find a doctor, I've got to find a dentist, good luck. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It's impossible for some people, and those that are leaving under a storm, be it from CDT with the drugs testing, or be it for medically discharged, it's even worse. If you know you're coming out, you're coming out. You prep yourself. You try and prep as best you can, but I would say the resettlement briefs aren't fit for purpose for a lot of people. That's my own thing. I say. So I think if it was fit for purpose, we wouldn't be struggling